All right, lots to get into today. We've got Kayvon Comedy. He's nationally known, of course, and he starred in the film Funny Thing About Love alongside John Hader. He tours nationally, and like anyone who tours nationally, encounters interesting resistance if they dare to be funny. Talk about that. And then we're going to bring Tom Renz in here. He's an attorney. He's representing a tragic case of a young child who died. And there's some concern about the blood supply and the transfusion to which that child was exposed. Clinton Oler is here to talk about safe blood supply. And then finally, we will be talking to Devlin Steele a little bit about gold and silver, just to wrap this thing up. So a lot to get into today. Kayvon Comedy after this.
Our laws as it pertains to substances are draconian and bizarre. The psychopaths start this way. He was an alcoholic because of social media and pornography, PTSD, love addiction, fentanyl and heroin. Ridiculous. I'm a doctor, for sake. Where the hell do you think I learned that? I'm just saying, you go to treatment before you kill people. I am a clinician. I observe things about these chemicals. Let's just deal with what's real. We used to get these calls on Loveline all the time. Educate adolescents and to prevent and to treat. If you have trouble you can't stop and you want to help stop it, I can help. I got a lot to say. I got a lot more to say.
All right, you can find Kayvon at kayvoncomedy.com, K-Von, V-O-N, and Kayvon Comedy, one word, all run together on X. Kayvon, thank you for joining us.
Hey, what an honor to be here. I'm a big fan of you. As intelligent as I am today is all because of you. Used to listen to Loveline, Adam Carolla. Next, I got to get you to link me up with Jimmy Kimmel and find out what's going on there. Why can't we meet on common ground? Because we're seeing things totally different.
Well, it's so interesting you brought that up. I just got off the phone with Adam a couple hours ago. We were both like, God, how does that happen? That we live in a world where we all are looking at the same thing, and we see what Scott Adams used to call two movies on one screen. So you see two completely different things. But I want to start though with your story, like how your comedy evolved, how you got involved in comedy, and then what some of the headwinds you got involved with. And what we should be doing about that. Because I will tell you one thing. From my perspective, I'm biased as follows. I sat there during COVID going, where are the comedians? Where are the comedians raising their hand and going, hey, this is bullshit. What's going on? What is going on? They towed the line. It was wild to see. But I want to hear your story.
Well, what you're saying is absolutely correct. I got into comedy. I'm from Reno, Nevada. So I just moved to California and just started hitting the open mics. And I just thought if it's funny and the people laugh, we're good to go. But I found that when I went to Irvine, Pasadena, I get these big laughs. And then I'm in Venice Beach, Hollywood, what they call that TMZ, that 30-mile zone. And people would come up and go, you really need to work on your humor. I go, how did I get a standing ovation last night? I'm getting reprimanded. I was not into politics at all, Dr. Drew. And then it all started to kind of get unveiled when the different college crowds I would do. I would start to see this crowd like me, this one didn't. And I would go, oh, this left and right thing is kind of a map that if you really focus on it, and I wish it wasn't so polarized, but that's how easy it was to know if I was going to do well or I was going to get a lot of pushback. And so I just started doing my shows on the road. And luckily with the internet, I could lob material and it would find its people. And the views were going up, and the left is like, we can't stop this kind of viral videos anymore because TV is not what it used to be. Going on the Kimmel Show is not as good as getting a viral video on TikTok. HBO, Netflix does so many comedy specials. Is it special anymore? So I love George Carlin. I love people that would say whatever needed to be said, left or right. And now I learned that there is a line you're not allowed to cross if you want to be on the side of the Kimmels, William Morris Agency, CAA, and if you ever want to work again.
What is the line? I get confused. I spend a lot of my time these days is in states of confusion. And I wonder if my confusion is a defense strategy, again, so I don't have to accept reality as it is right now, or if I really am confused. I don't know where that line is, for instance. Well,
with comedy, whenever something becomes absurd, you have to mock it. And that's what makes it fun. Yes. So I did a whole bit. It went viral. And I have no business going viral because I'm a guy that just does shows at small comedy clubs. but I made fun of the LGBTQ2SIA community. I said, these are too many letters. I said, my father growing up, he only had 3 letters, GAY, and that covered everybody. And there were, people on the right were like, this is my new favorite comedian. People on the left were like, he's never working at a SUNY university ever again. That was hateful and dangerous. And so I'm just like, I'm going to find my crowd, make them laugh.
As it pertains to that, I don't know if the algorithm is collating this stuff for me, but I see a lot more conversation from the GAY community about the fact that their movement has been sort of co-opted by a bunch of other letters, and at minimum they're sort of unsure that they're digging on it.
Growing up, I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, is where I ended up going to high school. And Vegas is a melting pot. You've been there many times. So we had the Filipino group, the Persians. My dad's Middle Eastern, by the way, he's Iranian. The Latinos, black, white, everything. And so we would make fun of each other, especially if you're in sports. You make fun of each other. Then you go into the acting camp of Los Angeles, and these are all the theater kids from all over the world coagulating in one space going, no, they never competed with each other. They never made fun of the black guy in the locker room. They never, teased the Persian guy. So to them, this is all hate crimes, and they don't want to hear this type of humor. And this is what I grew up on.
There is interesting how sports is sort of a common denominator in terms of being able to kind of not take yourself so seriously and to take feedback from somebody yelling at you and understand they're trying to help you. But I'm just thinking about your dad. Evidently, he liked to gamble. He goes from Reno to Vegas, drags his son along with him. What's going on there?
Yeah, my Iranian father, Baba Jun, was on the other side of gambling. He was a pit boss. And he made sure that you got at least a buffet after you lost a lot of your money. So he always told me, he said, do not gamble. I watch people lose millions every single day. Let the rich guys like Dr. Drew do that. You are not one of them. You need to work hard. So that's what I try to do.
Did he ever manage the whales? It's funny.
Yeah, he's the forward face of the company. So, Steve Wynn isn't walking all around. And Steve Wynn brought my father to the Mirage and the Bellagio, and he would kind of take care of them.
One of those guys, the whale manager guys, told me once. He said, I wine them and dine them, and then until they make $1 million, and once they've made $1 million, I know within a year they'll lose everything. I was like, you know that? Wow, that's wild. What a statement about human psychology.
Yeah, there was a sentimental moment. My dad drove me to the top of Las Vegas and he said, you see this town? I'm like, one day all of it can be mine. He's like, no, don't gamble. They built this off of losers. And then he drove me down. So it was a pretty fun time.
So he's the opposite of what I got accusing him of. So, All right. So you get into comedy, and did you say, were you part of these theater groups? Did you also do acting and stuff? And so you got exposed to that whole element?
Well, when you get to LA and you're doing open mics and things are going pretty well, you start doing the clubs, and then people go, you need to get an acting coach, you need to get an agent, and start pursuing, especially in 2009, 10, 11, 12. So I did that. I followed the steps, but I was like, these kids aren't quite like me. It just doesn't seem like it. And so when they come to my comedy shows, a lot of them are like, that joke was inappropriate. I was like, you sound like a school mom. I thought we were like the rebels. We say whatever we want, throw the middle finger to the powers that be. And the powers that be were the far left. I mean, that is the power. And so that's why being on the right is counterculture. As weird and dumb as that sounds, it's more punk rock. I mean, Johnny Lydon, Johnny Rotten from, Sex Pistols, he said the exact same thing. Like the right is punk. Trump is punk rock, as weird as that might sound.
Yeah, that if you're going to stand up to power and speak truth to power, you're going to be probably taught. Well, at least the majority of the last 15 years, you'd be talking to the left, pretty much. Mm-hmm. But it's again, it's a very confusing time. It's a kind of a crestfallen time for me too. It's like, really, it's like we just look at things and talk about them with common sense and rational discourse, but evidently not. Where do you? I mean, you think about this stuff a lot. You make fun of it a lot. Where do you imagine it's coming from?
I think it comes from a hate of the West. Like if you dig way down deep, it's like the revolutionaries, the Marxists, the communists. They hate the left. That's why you can see the LGBT movement combining with the Palestine movement, as if those two have any common ground at all. No LGBTs can go marching around blowing their whistles anywhere in the Middle East and come out alive, but they hate America, they hate the right, they hate white Christian males. I happen to be Persian, so I have my little diversity credit, and they hate me because you sell out, you're supposed to be one of us. I'm like, I don't have to join your movement. I'm going to make fun of whatever's stupid, and to me, I like triggering them.
What's in your crosshairs now?
Well, it's a little bit tough right now because, first of all, I don't want to mock anything that happened with ICE, and I don't want anyone to die, but I don't want them to go out and, they're like LeBron. They go there and they flop and go, look what happened to me. I'm like, you put yourself in that position. So I don't see a lot of humor in what happened, but I do make fun of Somalian learning centers. I did a show at a guy's private event and I go, man, this guy makes a lot of money. He probably got one of those learning centers on the property, like little jokes like that. But I find myself pretty, I'm looking for new material that isn't going to, because look, when people come to a comedy show, I know my fans are there, but they bring their dates. I don't want to alienate the room. I want everyone to leave laughing. So I try not to go super political and keep it mainstream, but still my point of view is always there.
And you tried to do colleges, like you said. You went to places that were in standing ovation and then flop. What was the worst sort of? There was really horrible things going on with people. Just Brett Weinstein and his wife were almost killed on a college campus for daring not to take the day off, essentially. And I hear a lot of comedians will not go to any college campuses because it's just too painful.
It's very difficult. If you think of college when you went to school, your viewers went to school, it was toga parties, drinking beer, and getting good grades if you could after that. Yeah. But now they show up in sweatpants, the purple hair, the lip ring. They're not, this girl's growing her mustache out and they're staring at you and you're just trying to be like, hey, what's up? We're going to laugh. And they get mad if you're like, where's all the ladies at? Where's all the guys that make some noise? That used to just be a warm up. Now you have to say, how are all the people here feeling tonight? So as an older person, which, I'm not that old, but they're trying to how they do an update every now and then with technology just to get rid of people. They're trying to get rid of the older model and they're trying to make you obsolete. But my worst experience, to answer your question, was a show I didn't even get to do. I've done 100 shows with no incident. And whether it was good or bad, it was always like a B+ to an A+ experience. But I made a joke about Ketanji Jackson the day she got assigned as a Supreme Court justice. And I said, which bathroom does she use now since she doesn't know the difference between a man and a woman? I just posted that on Twitter. No big deal. They took that tweet, ran into the dean's office, blowing whistles, screaming, yelling, saying, we feel in danger if this comedian comes to our campus. And that was SUNY Plattsburgh. The dean didn't want to deal with it, fired, canceled my show a week before, so ruined my dates. But then here's the best part. They started sending me violent threats like, haha, and if you would have come here, we would have beat you up. We would have knocked you out. And you think these are silly, little tweets from losers, but look what they did to Charlie Kirk. So I don't put it past them for one of them to want to be the hero of their group, get up on a roof and take that shot.
Yeah, that's the part that is really so interesting to me, amongst other things. But one of the issues is I'm so empathic. I'm so concerned. I'm such a concerned person, and yet if anyone runs 1 inch afoul of what I think is, let's just use a word like appropriate, I have murderous rage. I must kill you, must destroy you, must beat you. That tells you something, and I'm wondering, to me, to me that smacks of mental illness, right? I mean, that's what that smacks up. Really now, and so in my world, the way when people behave like patients, you have to treat them like patients, and that means containment and de-escalation, not gratification and increasing their spin. You want to help them regulate, calm it down. And we're doing the exact opposite, and it's not serving anybody. And oftentimes, and I'm sure you're running into this, it feels like these are young women, young white liberal women. It seems like that's the main population. And I'm gravely concerned about that group.
Absolutely. Being a single guy makes dating almost impossible since probably 60 to 70% of women are either on the left or don't want to disrupt their social group. So they can't be seen with a comedian like that. So there's still 30% of women out there. I mean, it's not poor me, but it has been difficult. I never worried about that when I kept my political opinions completely close to myself. But now that I see who's out there and you're canceled, or they'll report you if you're on a dating app because it said, USA flag in your profile. And if all it takes is 3 or 4 people to report you, they'll shut down your dating profile and say you've offended too many users. Stuff like that. They're just trying to blackball you, deplatform you, and take you out of the game.
Yeah, it's so nasty. It's so mean. It's so contrary to how they claim they want to be. Certainly not Christian in the sense of it's extending the hand, so to speak. Do you feel like there's any improvement coming along in the generation behind the group that's sort of been in college recently?
Well, that's what I've heard. And I do have some cousins, and they're doing the jokes that, certain words are coming back and people are stopped tiptoeing through the tulips. So I'm hopeful for that next generation who just hates their older brothers and cousins and aunts that are so weird. And that if I can speak to that generation, that's fine, because I got the 55 and older community. And then I guess 15 and younger will grow up eventually. But I got to tell you, performing at 55 and older communities has been incident free. They have money, they have golf courses. And if I could marry one of those widows, I can get grandmothered in and live in that community. Can't wait.
Grandmothered in. I right now, one of the things that really has got my attention is how language is being controlled. That is not okay. It is not okay to control people's speech. And we have to all, when somebody says, "Oh, that's that's hurtful" or whatever, it's like, you can't tell me how to talk. You can't do that. I thank you for the information. You cannot demand I speak the way you want me to speak. That is ridiculous, and it's tyrannical, absolutely tyrannical.
Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, those pronouns, that is tyranny. It's like soft, subtle victimhood attacking. Like, I'm the victim. Call me by these words only, and if you dare mess up, then I'll get you kicked out of this workplace or out of this school or out of this environment. And they love that soft power of being the victim at all times. It's a very weird thing.
Yes, it's not a good thing. It's not good for anybody. It really isn't. I'm trying to get on my restream here real quickly to see if I can see if you have any questions. I think for some reason my restream isn't working today. I forgot my computer.
I'm a big fan of Scott Adams, and I just love that you were on some of his last different podcasts, and it was just cool to hear your voice and all these people speaking so well of him, and he is definitely missed. But during the pandemic, he would do 2 podcasts a day, and he was just a voice of rationality in people's ears. And of course, the left hated him. He was a racist, sexist, bigoted, Islamophobic, xenophobic. And if anyone calls you those things, I'm more likely to like you now than anything else and want to hear more from you.
Well, at least makes you go, I want to hear what that person has to say, because it doesn't make sense that that's all they are. And that's how this stream started for me. I was seeing these peers, sort of, people whose work I'd read, people who were highly thought of, being canceled just all over the place. I was like, names like Bhattacharya and McCullough and Kennedy. I was like, these people probably have something to say. I want to hear what they've got to say. There's something interesting going on here. And I'll be damned if they didn't have a lot to say and weren't actually speaking a truth that was just being absolutely attacked. It was an attack on the truth. And the truth is still under attack. It really is. And you see people, I saw Elon Musk retweeted something today. A woman was saying the truth doesn't matter. Truth's just inconvenient. Well, all that matters is outcome. That is bullshit.
Well, that's exactly the game they're playing. There was a situation where Elon was so excited that he just waved to everyone. He's got the Asperger's, so he's like, "I love you." Yeah. And that's when the launch of attacks of every Tesla, whether a leftist was driving it or someone you didn't know their politics, you would draw a swastika on it to show how much you hated the swastika being. I mean, I wouldn't see one if it weren't for the left. And then Mamdani.
Hang on a second. Caleb is putting up Mamdani's recent.
There he is.
Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Hold on a second. You mean you can put your hand over your heart and you can raise your hand? You can do that? Or are you a Nazi if you do that? Look, these people need to examine themselves. Mamdani's not a Nazi. He's not. And the people that said that Musk was a Nazi need to understand they disconnected from reality and need to check themselves.
Yeah, I shared that video and people said, Mamdani twinkles his fingers at the end. Elon didn't. I go, oh, my, this is how they're splitting hairs. I'm like, I'm pointing out the absurdity that either one of them are Nazis. Knock it off. Yeah. And I would not see any mention of Hitler or swastikas if it weren't for leftists every single day drawing them on people's cars and homes.
It's wild. Well, what's on your radar these days? What's coming up for you?
I've got my calendar full of comedy club weeks, and people go, I would never come. Those people, we don't want them there. We want a nice, safe environment. We can laugh together. If you're a moderate or a conservative, you're welcome to my show. If you're on the far left, sit down or be quiet. We do have security. We will have you handled because you are not safe to be around at this point. But I am going to Minnesota. I'll be in the belly of the beast in Minneapolis. There's the Mall of Somalia, the Mall of America in Minneapolis. Yep. I'll be there.
Well, we spent a lot of time in Pasadena and Irvine. So next time you're at the Ice House or the Irvine Improv, let us know. We'll swing by. Certainly the Ice House. Any of your viewers,
I love that place. I'll give any of your viewers 10. I'm giving away 10 free tickets to the first 10 people who find me on either Instagram or Twitter.
Done and done. And what is that address? It's Kayvon Comedy, right?
If you Google Kayvon, I'm the only white guy named Kayvon on the internet. It's amazing. I can't believe it.
Are you technically white? Are you Persian? Are you white? Do we have to clarify everybody's everything? But what are you?
Everyone is so unique. I'm half Persian, half Scottish, so I go by Harry Pottish. Especially when I unzip this, you can see what's going on down here.
Nice. Do you remember that we used to laugh about that? We spent some time in Scotland, and we used to laugh about the. This is an old SNL skit. I think it was with Dan Aykroyd, where he just gets in there. He runs a Scottish shop, and everyone that comes in, he just goes, "If it's not Scottish, it's shit." And it just yells at them constantly.
It's crap. Is that Mike Myers?
Right, it's crap.
Yeah, I think that's where he got the
Mike
fat
Myers?
Bastard. Yeah, I love that guy, man.
No kidding. Well, there you go. A little Scottish history here for all of us. All right, my friend. Good to meet you, and hopefully we'll see you in person one of these days soon.
Absolutely. Love to have you.
All right, you got it. All right, after the break, we are going to bring our friend Tom Renz in here. I told him while we were lining up the show, I said, Tom, he and I often disagree. We often disagree, and today we will disagree too. But I always know that Tom is on the side of the good. He always has his heart in the right place, and he works his ass off for people. And I value his efforts, and I value his participation here with us. And today will be no exception. He'll be joined by Clinton Ohlers, who is working on making sure the blood supply is clean. And I got questions for both of them. And unfortunately, one of Tom's clients is lost a child because of some very, very serious problems medically. And we'll get into that a little bit as well. So right back with Tom and Clinton after this. I've spent most of my career dealing with illnesses that shorten life, and now we have ways to extend it and extend wellness. I've been working with the team over at VShred to develop a product that has everything I want in a longevity supplement. NR Boost has nicotinamide riboside. You know, metal can rust. Well, your body behaves in a similar way. It's mediated through something called NAD. NAD falls as we age, so we're less able to fight off that oxidative process. We oxidize much like that metal. And NAD fights it, but nicotinamide riboside elevates NAD so we can push back on those oxidative stressors, improving health, improving longevity. The other product is Senosync, has fisetin, one of the key molecules to fight off zombie cells, and we've added resveratrol to that, which is a well-known anti-aging antioxidant again. I don't like supplements that have a ton of ingredients. To me, it suggests that none of it's working. When I prescribe a medication, I prescribe that medicine because I expect that to work. That is exactly what I've done with these products. And I want you to go to drdrew.com/vshredmd for 10% off. Again, that is drdrew.com/vshredmd. What's going on with your retirement savings? This should concern all of us. Inflation is not some abstract notion. It quietly erodes purchasing power over time. This means that savings you had in 2020 have already lost roughly 22% of its value. This isn't politics, this is arithmetic. But the troubling part is most retirement accounts are correlated really 100% with equity markets. So when markets drop, your savings drop. Retiring at the wrong time can undo decades of work. That's why many people look to physical gold and silver for protection. And that's why we suggest Augusta Precious Metals. Their entire approach is very different. There's no pressure. They just give you education and information. Augusta explains how gold or silver IRAs work and how physical metals could fit into your retirement account without tax consequences. And they've operated for over a decade with thousands of clients. They put together a free guide that walks you through everything. It's available now at drdrew.com/gold. You'll get the same educational materials that Augusta gave to Susan and myself. So if inflation worries you, Augusta is a great place to start. Go to drdrew.com/gold. That is drdrew.com/GOLD. Or just text the word Drew to the number 35052. That's 35052 to get that free guide now.
Dr. Drew said the best way to quit drinking is by going cold turkey, and he's a doctor, so why would you question doctors?
Dr. Drew called me unfixable.
Well, a lot of people are aware that travel's been a little bit difficult because of unpredictable weather, and that could be delays. But with Paleo Valley, I'm ready to go. I don't have to eat whatever they offer me in the terminal or on the plane. It's grass-fed and finished protein sticks. They're minimally processed. They're delicious, nutrient-dense. They contain only the most impeccably sourced ingredients. They pay attention at Paleo Valley. They beautifully substitute when options on the airlines or in the terminal are not so appetizing. And they're only like 90 calories per. So when you're stuck at the gate, Susan and I had a bunch last week. We were traveling in this weather. And of course, there's the original beef, the venison. This is the venison I have in my hand, and the chicken. They've come to the rescue many times when we fly, as well as the bone broth. And now with the megastorm here in the country, good time to consider stocking up. Great time for the bone broth, too. That is so great in the cold. Go to drdrew.com/Paleo Valley for 15% off your first order and 20% when you subscribe. I can't say enough good about Paleo Valley. They've been great partners, and they have been wonderful with what they're providing our viewers. So thank you, Paleo Valley. All right. Now, Tom Renz, of course, the lawyer. You know him. He's been here many times. We've talked about some very interesting topics. He has a tragic story he's representing now, and he brings along with him Clinton Ohlers. I want to get everyone's particulars here before we bring them in. Tom Renz can be found on X, Renz Tom, R-E-N-Z, and tomrenz.com. TomRenz.substack.com, and Clinton is at safeblood.com, also on X, safe_blood3, I believe I'm saying. Yep. And Clinton is found on X, looks to me like RC, make sure that's right, Ohlers, O-H-L-E-R-S. Gentlemen, thank you. Welcome to the program. Oh, it's
Drew.
Tom to begin with. There we are. Clinton's there with you.
How you doing, Dave Drew?
Tom, we're doing good, and you and I got a lot to kind of crawl through here, but I want to get to Clinton's stuff first, and I'm going to start with Tom to get to Clinton's material, which is how, Tom, did you get involved with this, and how did you come to learn that there was a Safe Blood movement?
So, I mean, we've been here and we've gone through a fair bit of the COVID stuff over the time, and what's in the blood is in the blood. Now, we've gone back and forth, and you and I, we've disagreed politely a little bit about whether it's genomic integration, the potential for turbo cancer, all these sorts of things, which, by the way, Doc, I don't know if you've been following Nick Holcher and McCullough's stuff on that. I still stand by very much that we're going to find out there's 100% causal relationship. But, we see
Tom,
this stuff.
I'm going to stop you, Tom. And even when we disagree, usually what I'm doing is probing to try to get to my opinion. I'm not even at where I'm not finished yet. I'm still trying to figure things out. But I have to be really convinced. And that's why people are pissed at me still about COVID. I was late to certain things. And yeah, I was. I'm cautious. That's where it goes.
I've never been pissed at you. I'll tell you, to be real honest, you're a mainstream scientist and you're a legit scientist. And the simple fact of the matter is that you were one of the very few that I could actually reason with. I mean, there were so many that wouldn't, they weren't real scientists, right? Because a real scientist always challenges their own opinion. Whereas, like I said, a lot of these people, I would talk to them and they would just close it down. So, as I've looked, and one of the things, I actually put this out somewhere the other day. One of the things that actually with you and I found was the need for science and law to work much more closely, right? Because we're seeing now the indications and the science is starting to show what you and I talked about a couple of years ago. And people were like, no, Renz, that's nonsense. The science doesn't show that there's genomic integration. The science doesn't show that there's turbo cancer. And I said, well, listen, I'm not a scientist. I'm just some dumb lawyer from Ohio. But what I am is a guy who's got evidence, right? And I don't need to be a scientist to look at the evidence and say, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? If it's beyond a reasonable doubt, it's beyond a reasonable doubt. And when you get an opposing party admission, well, you got an opposing party admission. So that led me to doing a lot of work. And one of the things that I found, and my wife had cancer, which is back, there's a potential need for blood transfusions. Well, I mean, obviously we've avoided these mRNA poisons like the plague. The last thing I wanted was to see that, in a blood transfusion, right? And
Right.
So at the time, we're going through all this stuff. I'm looking around. I'm like, what's going on? Well, what can I do? How can I avoid this? And it turns out there's nothing that I can do. In fact, the FDA is now even, kind of leaning away and putting some stuff out there to really block directed blood transfusions, which is an absolute disaster. So I'm looking around and I found a couple different groups that are doing it. One of them is Safe Blood, right? Safe Blood. And
That's Clinton. I
I love these guys. They're good people. And what they're doing is they're just trying to make sure that if you've, been smart enough to avoid this, which, I guess that's the wrong way to say it, because there's a lot of brilliant people that were lied to very convincingly and thought that this was okay. And, but they didn't avoid it. But even if you've gotten it, there's no reason to put more in your system, right? Some people are still out there on booster 37 because the first 36 didn't do enough. So
Right.
we needed to find a mechanism whereby people like me, people who, who've never gotten it, or people who don't want to get any more of it, could somehow find access to blood that was safe. Because if you need it, you need it. Enter Safe Blood.
And
Enter Clinton.
Tom, it seems to me that it's part of, at least to me, it's kind of part of the medical freedom movement, which is people want this to feel like they are attending to their health the way they would like to. They should have it. Clinton, let's get Clinton in here. And I hope I'm pronouncing your last name correctly. Is it Oler? Is that correct?
That is it. Yeah, you got it correctly.
All right, I got it. So how did you get involved with this, and what is the organization doing?
Well, that's a great question. Yeah, I was working on the issues of really how the therapeutics during the COVID, pandemic were being suppressed by really, virtual fraud in the medical journals. My background's a PhD in focus on the history of science. And so I got involved in Safe Blood because I thought this was a really important cause that was being overlooked, was what was happening with our blood supply, since the components of the vaccines, which were increasingly showing to cause adverse reactions, were going to be circulating in the blood. That means that there was risk through transfusions. And so that's what we're here to prevent.
Now, obviously, the risk from whole blood would be a lot different than packed red blood cells, right? Red blood cells, theoretically at least, should clean a lot of this stuff out. But I'm hearing speculation about exosomes still flying around. Is that where your concern is?
Yes, our primary concern came from the discovery that people, by all the criteria that we can judge, have been experiencing severe adverse reactions from blood transfusions, especially if they get multiple units. Since with multiple units, there's almost an assurance that you'll get blood from unvaccinated or mRNA-vaccinated donors. And yeah, that's an example.
I love the fact that
there's baby Alex.
I'm fascinated by your training. Have we ever been through something? Is there a similar period in the history of science to what the present moment has provided us? Was it the Spanish Inquisition? What is this? Feels close to that for me. I mean,
well, this is like
anybody
the 1980s.
that stands up is Galileo.
Yeah, well, it's really, I see it like the 1980s all over again with the HIV crisis, because it is almost a perfect repetition of that period, in that you had doctors who were early to the forefront saying, look, this mystery disease, we have to assume it's it's circulating in the blood. Transfusion should be safe. Should be dangerous. Instead of being supported, they were reprimanded for trying to reduce the amount of transfusions they were doing. And the gap between when people first realized and when a national policy was all across the country was 9 years. It took 7 years just for the FDA to start requiring testing of blood. And in that gap, a lot of people were killed or injured. Something like half of all hemophiliacs, or 16,000 hemophiliacs in the country, half of them contracted AIDS through the blood supply. And I just looked at a 1995 review commissioned by HHS to see, well, what did we do wrong there? Looking back at the 80s, and they found that there was delayed mitigation of risk in spite of mounting evidence. They found that there was an overweening reliance on the guidance of big blood, the blood industry, where there was conflicts of interest, and then there was an overweening demand for absolute scientific proof. It flew in the face of common sense reasoning and patient reporting.
I was part of the frontline physicians that were there treating AIDS patients, and what I recall was this well-intentioned sort of, it is very much like the present moment in terms of ideology superseding science or safety, where it was people were saying things like, do you want us to not allow gay men to give blood, or Haitians can't give blood? That's insane. That's absolutely discriminatory. How dare we even think about that? You weren't even allowed to say those words. And it seemed like to me back then, that was more the battleground than the science.
Yeah, and there was a real desire not to create a hysteria over the blood supply, right? They didn't want a hysteria to break out. And that's where we're seeing the same things here again. Right, the FDA comes out with a statement that's actually based on a fallacious. The study's not fallacious. The use of it's fallacious. The idea that in some way directed donations are more risky, when what that study showed was that directed donations were actually aiding public health. Once you looked at how people were filtered from the screening process, and of course, no damage was done, and that appears on the FDA website. I mean, that's, in my opinion, that's like horses and pigs and cows all over again. And so we have to realize that there seems to be delays with our bureaucracies that are supposed to be protecting us, getting on board to protect us. And it's very concerning.
Yeah, of course. Gosh, there was one other question I had for you in terms of what this all... lost it. Clinton, who do you want to come visit Safe Blood, really, and how do people do it?
Yeah, well, anybody certainly who is going to have a scheduled blood transfusion, and that includes whether you have not had the vaccine or if you've had the vaccine and you don't want further exposure, particularly if you've had an adverse reaction. Definitely you wouldn't want further exposure. We're finding so much out now about the DNA plasmids, SV40 promoter, that were in the vials and are now still circulating in the blood of many people, along with a spike protein. So we're in that window between when the crisis is broken out and it's not being fixed. People really need to keep themselves safe. Pregnant mothers, they don't even need to come to us. They could do what's called an autologous donation by donating to themselves ahead of time in preparation for delivery. You know, there's different things people can do, but really, if they come and reach out to us, they're not just protecting themselves, they're helping us be able to protect the larger community.
And mentioning autologous blood, that is what I actually wanted to ask about. I'm hearing strange rumors about people not getting access to autologous blood for surgeries and deliveries and things when they want it. Is something going on that way?
Yes, there's been a bit of that. We had a case in Texas of a individual who was going in for open heart surgery, and he was denied. His wife's donating for her. She was a universal donor. Friends and family were willing to donate. They said, well, can he donate to himself? And they said that their policy was only under medical necessity could do this kind of donation. Now, this is very strange because there'd be nothing better for you than your own blood. And certainly if there was enough time for him to replenish, then that shouldn't have been a problem. And in
Weird.
fact, he ended up doing the cell saver, which did use his own blood, but not by way of transfusion. So this has been a problem throughout the country, particularly in the Northwest as well.
It's
Not just
really
Texas.
interesting. I mean, autologous blood was always the superior approach. But all right, Clinton, I'm going to let you go. I want to dig into with Tom on this baby Alex case. But we appreciate you being here and thank you for your work. And safeblood.com. And where else should we look for you?
Check us out on Substack, safeblood.substack.com.
Done. Thank you, Clinton. Appreciate you being here. All right, Tom, baby Alex. Tragic. I don't even want to. I have to dig into the biology of this thing, and I was thinking about it. Obviously, Clinton is very persuasive and very convincing, and has looked at this. He's a well-trained guy, and he's looking into it. I'm glad, and I think he's supporting the medical freedom movement top to bottom, from my standpoint. But you've got a case on your head. You have a specific case, and
Drew,
there
to
are
be
elements.
clear,
Yeah.
and I'm sorry to interrupt you. To be clear, I'm not. That's somewhere along the line that got mixed up in the transmission. I'm not representing baby Alex, but I am.
Okay.
I've got some similar things that I'm working on, and
Okay.
we're aware of the situation. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so good. So even better, because then we can kind of talk about this somewhat dispassionately, which is that be careful running. I see a lot of people running to blame vaccine for everything, blame transfusion for people have always gotten sick. People have always had hypercoagulability. People have had diffuse vascular coagulation, and it's just human. That's just what happens to the human biology when it gets sick. And to run to these one side of the boat or the other, I think you're doing everybody a disservice when you do that. And I'm starting to get worried about that. And so I was thinking, the one thing, if this was your case, I was saying, well, what if I were going to like prep you for this case? What would I be hammering you about? What are you likely to run into in the courtroom? And it would be the fact that clotting happens, and coagulation abnormalities happen, particularly in very, very sick people, and particularly people are being transfused. They happen. You don't have to bring in another explanation. And yet, that may have something to do with it. It's possible. I don't want to say it's impossible. So how do you look at it?
Well, I would agree with you. So first of all, one of the things that's very difficult in my space is particularly, we all know how I feel about things. Are you passionate about things? But really disciplining yourself, just like a scientist has to discipline themselves to look at the science, with a kind of an unbiased eye. I have to do the same thing to look at the evidence with an unbiased eye, right? And I have to make sure that when I don't mix up, for example, to use you guys as a language, correlation and causation. Certainly there's a lot of evidence here. Now, when we talk about, clotting, here's the thing. Do we know that there's a lot of clotting issues with the COVID jabs? 100%. There's no question about that. The whole point of the nattokinase is to break down the microclots, before they become macroclots. I don't know if that's the proper terminology, but this is definitely a major issue. We know that clotting can become a real issue. So if you've got blood that is vaccinated, could that potentially be an issue? And arguably, yes. The timeline fits here. There's a lot of things that line up. And what this case comes down to is really, can you get to preponderance of the evidence, right? Does it because that's the standard. And so in this case, and in other cases, what we've got to look at is what are we seeing? Well, we see microclotting becoming an issue. Microclotting, and we also know that even though unless you're getting platelets only, when you get a blood transfusion, there is potential for genetic material transfer. There's potential for I know they try and clean it out, but there is, and tell me if you disagree, Doc. But there is potential for genetic material to transfer. There's a lot of arguments about genomic integration. And so if I'm going to go through this, one of the things that I'd be looking at, and I am not on that case, but if I'm going to try and make this case, what I'm going to start out with is I'm going to start out looking at I would really want to have, and I know that this is gruesome and terrible, but you want that autopsy blood, and you want that autopsy blood tested to see, hey, is there any indication that the blood this baby was given is there any genomic integration? Is there anything indicating that there's something in there? And you want to really kind of look and see what sort of purity there is, because the baby's blood would arguably be pretty pure, or something that you would be able to determine based on more standardized testing, right? I mean, there's certain things that y'all can test for that would say, hey, this is a problem, or that there's something. Yeah. So that's kind of where I would start on this. And you have to really kind of pull those two apart before you can say yay or nay on it. Do you disagree with any of that as a scientist, Doc?
No, but there's still many other explanations. But what I would focus in on is the fact that, see, I really have become militant about medical freedom. And this family requested something that appeared to have been ignored. Now, I don't want to say that doctors should never ignore the wishes of family. They're going extraordinary measures to save somebody. Sometimes you run afoul of wishes and things. I would be, the only time I would ever do that is you had 2 or 3 physicians signing off on that decision, not on your own ever. Even then, I would maybe assemble an ethics committee at the hospital before I did it. There are ways to do it, right? If that's what the doctors feel they're obliged to do. But to fly in the face of the family's wishes just because, if that's what happened, to me, that's where the rubber hits the road.
Well, I would agree with you that that's a crisis. And interestingly enough, this sometimes happens when you and I are talking. As we speak, I got a text message from a friend of mine out of Florida. Her name is Joy Zeroff, and her daughter's case is making some noise right now. Now, this is a related topic, and it's a very important topic, and this ties into what you just said. Is the hospital culpable if their decision to override the parents' wishes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Right. And this is something that I'm extremely passionate about as well, and I want to bring up. So Joy's daughter has cystic fibrosis. And that I have on my X profile the video of CPS coming and medically kidnapping her. And Doc, are you familiar with the concept of medical kidnapping? Do you know what I'm talking about there?
I've heard. To say familiar would be too strong a word, but I've heard things like that.
So let me tell you what's happening, because I'm working on this around the country in a few different places, and I'm not representing.
And as soon as you, I know I'm going to be sympathetic, but as soon as you go to restricting people's freedoms, I'm like, I've got a problem.
Well, this one you and I need to have a full talk about, because what's happening around the country. There's a couple cases in Oklahoma, red Oklahoma. I mean, the reddest state in the country, even redder than Florida. And we've got Florida and the Carolinas, bunch of states. So what's happening is this. Family comes in, cystic fibrosis. The most frequent example is cancer. But in California, this even applies to the transgender issue. So kid comes in. Kid says, kid's got cancer. Doc says, you've got to be on chemo. Family says, we don't want chemo. We want to try alternative first. Doc says, well, that's just not acceptable. Doc, by the way, is getting millions of dollars off the chemo and is, personally getting a cut off the chemo. And so, as a mandatory reporter, calls CPS. CPS comes and they powwows with the doctor. And this is a rough scenario. CPS, by the way, CPS makes more money every child that they have in custody, right? So looking at a child and keeping them with their family is one thing, but if they've got a child in custody, they make more money. So CPS powwows with the doctor, and then they have what's called an ex parte TRO hearing. And what that means, Doc, is they go to a judge and they say, hey, this family is medically negligent. They're medically negligent, and they're putting their child at risk, and we need to immediately take this child from their family so that we can get them this chemo treatment that they don't want to do. So the judge says, oh, okay, because they've got a doctor that's saying, hey, it's medically necessary. They got CPS saying, hey, we need to do this. And so the judge signs off on it. So CPS then shows up with policemen at your house. They take your child. No notice. You didn't know there was a hearing. You didn't even know this was happening. They kidnap your child from you. This is all completely legal, Doc, in all 50 states. They take your child, and when they do, they tell you, okay, you get a follow-up hearing because the law requires a follow-up when there's an ex parte within 24 to 48 hours. Then this family, who may not have any money, probably don't know any lawyers, and even if they do,
Right.
there's only a handful of lawyers in this country that would be capable of arguing this case, because the standard that you have to show is that it's not medically necessary. Well, guess what, Doc? I mean, this is what I do, right? I mean, I can go argue this, but there's like not a whole lot of guys that do what I do. You have to go in and you have to show in 24 to 48 hours that what's happening, what the doctor's saying is not medically necessary. So you have to overcome that doctor's expert opinion within 24 to 48 hours, or the parents are left with two alternatives: listen to what the doctor says or lose their child. And then it gets worse from there and it goes down. But basically what ends up happening is kids get taken from their houses and taken from their homes and taken from their families. And it gets even worse because in places like California,
it's nightmarish. I get it. And to me, the one thing that I could point at that would help, it wouldn't take this all away, but it feels like there's a grotesque underutilization of the bioethical committees and the ethics, the ethics committee at these hospitals. They are supposed to have ethics committees that examine cases like this and are assembled on an ad hoc basis when there's an urgent problem. And just look what happened to Aaron Kheriaty, who's a bioethicist. He spoke up during COVID and was immediately discharged from his job. I mean, there's something wrong with I just heard about this case, I think it was in Florida, where a physician refused to treat anybody who was so-called MAGA. And I was like, man, physicians can refuse to treat who they want, but if it's an emergency room or something, you've got to do your job. That's just the way it goes. So there's a lot of stuff going on right now that leads me to really worry about how my profession is operating bioethically. There's a lot going on and as you say, where there's smoke, there's fire. But I've got to wrap this conversation up here. Again, I'm always glad you're there fighting the fights. I know how hard you fight, and I know how little thanks you get for it. But I'll let you wrap up. What do you want people to know about what you're doing and what you're up to next?
Well, we always need help and support. So you got the timer and show all these sorts of things. But today I want to tell you, support Clinton, support Safe Blood. And if you have some time or interest in the medical kidnapping, or what we hear about with baby Alex is really akin. It's a part of this health freedom issue. And what you need to do is you need to take a look at this right now. Joy Zeroff, take a look at her case in Florida, support her on Twitter and elsewhere. We're trying to get DeSantis to look at it. We got some stuff going. Senator Shane Jett in Oklahoma is helping us to try and fix this. We're fighting all over the country. We do need help. We do need support anywhere we can get it. And, make sure you're following and liking Dr. Drew, because he's one of the few mainstream guys out there that's really willing to listen and to debate and to have an open mind with this stuff. Doc, you got my admiration and respect and my gratitude for all that you do.
Thank you, Tom. We'll talk soon, no doubt.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to take a little break here, and when we get back, we're going to change topics and go into gold and silver. I know people are, we've been talking about it and promoting it, and we're going to get some more information about it, because it is, it's overwhelming how much movement there's been in metals. So there it is. There's the chart, and he's going to explain to us why this is happening, what it means, what you might do about it after this. More of our audience is taking health and wellness into their own hands, and they're doing it with The Wellness Company. For a discount on the best-selling products and everything on their website, for that matter, go to drdrew.com/TWC. The medical emergency kits are among the most popular items. There are 8 different kits, each depending on your individual needs. Inside, you'll find antibiotics, antivirals, antiparasitics, first aid, anti-nauseal, skin treatments, and a kids kit with EpiPen and one for travel. The advantage to having an emergency kit in the house is immediacy. You don't have to run to the urgent care and spend a ton of money for all that infrastructure, or wait for the pharmacy to open, or try to find a doctor. And then there's Ultimate Spike Detox Supplement with nattokinase, turmeric, and bromelain. It has helped the vaccine injured. And anyone who is concerned about cardiovascular issues caused by lingering spike from the virus or the shots, The Ultimate Spike Detox is for you. One of TWC's top sellers is a topical ivermectin cream. It treats inflammation of the skin, issues like rosacea. Finally, to curb appetite and support a healthy metabolism, there's Drop. And while jury is still out on the long-term effects of GLP-1s, you can go with Drop. It's a breakthrough peptide that targets the GLP-1 made by your own body. The wellness company is always innovating. So go to drdrew.com/TWC to see what they have to offer and get a 10% discount there. I'm excited to bring you a new product, a new supplement, Fatty. I take it. I make Susan take it. My whole family takes it. This comes out of, believe it or not, dolphin research. The Navy maintains a fleet of dolphins. And a brilliant veterinarian recognized that these dolphins sometimes developed a syndrome identical to our Alzheimer's disease. Those dolphins were deficient in a particular fatty acid. She replaced the fatty acid, and they didn't get the Alzheimer's. Humans have the same issue, and we are more deficient in this particular fatty acid than ever before. And a simple replacement of this fatty acid called C15 will help us prevent these syndromes. It's published in a recent journal called Metabolites. It's a new nutritional C15, pentadecanoic acid it's called. The deficiency that we are developing for C15 creates something called the cellular fragility syndrome. This is the first nutritional deficiency syndrome to be discovered in 75 years and may be affecting us in many ways, and as many as 1 in 3 of us. This is an important breakthrough. Take advantage of it. Go to fatty15.com/Dr. Drew to receive 15% off a 90-day starter kit subscription, or use code Dr. Drew at checkout for that 15% off, or just go to our website, drdrew.com/fatty15.
The other day he looked at me and he goes, "Hey, the V-shred's working." He likes it when I try to look good for him.
You're nice. There's an excitement that comes with doing these kinds of workouts that kind of sustains you through the day.
It's exhilarating.
It's not working out hours in the gym. It's not running on a treadmill forever. It's not killing yourself with diet. These are all very reasonable recommendations. You just got to follow it. We're actually really genuinely very excited about what we're getting out of this. We like doing it together. We're both in on this, and it's been a real fun adventure. I don't know where we stop.
In the first 2 weeks, I lost 5 pounds. So There you go.
In your 20s, it's easy, right? We put on muscle easily. We're fit. We got tons of stamina. But as you get older, you may not be able to lose weight as quickly or as easily. You may not be able to put muscle on so easily. And joints and muscles sometimes start to hurt. And you may think or may have been told that there's nothing you can do about it other than taking more pills, eating more salads, or just spending endless hours at the gym. Well, that isn't true. Thousands of people are in the best shape of their lives merely because they've taken the time to do 3 things. No crazy diets, no extraordinary workouts that can injure yourself or exhaust yourself. Just a simple plan that has been proven to work. Rather than me explaining this to you for 30 minutes, there's a 30-second quiz you can take. So if you want to learn more right now, click the link below to get your personal life plan. All right, we're going to talk with Devlin Steele from Augusta Metals. We're going to talk about the government and their gaslighting and what might be happening to your savings and the psychology of next crash. Devlin, we appreciate you being here. Got lots of questions. People are sort of bewildered by the rate at which some of these metals are accelerating and increasing. What's driving some of that? Oh, we lost your, hang on a second. Your mic is off. You must be on mute there still on your settings, I'm betting. Or we'll give you a second. Caleb, is there anything on your end?
Nope, it was my end. My apologies.
Here you are. You got it.
I wanted to thank you for having me. I've been a big fan of your work for a long time. And actually what's happening right now is quite interesting, because the relationship between gold and the dollar is not just an economic issue, it's a relationship issue. And who better to discuss the breaking up of relationships other than you? And that's what makes it, well, that's what makes it interesting, because in any relationship, when you break up, you have damages, you have loss of trust, you have all these issues that come up. And the world right now is facing a massive breakdown in trust with the dollar. And that's why you're seeing the reaction of gold.
Is it strictly that, or are there other things such as debt or I imagine there's many forces at work?
Well, debt is a function of the dollar. What you're seeing happening is that countries like Japan, China, Even the Dutch are dumping U.S. treasuries. So they're not screaming, they're not yelling, they're acting very quietly, selling off treasuries because they no longer believe the United States will be responsible about debt, that they'll take that under control. And so they're literally packing up their bag.
If they're going to hold the debt, they have to have confidence in it, and confidence in the dollar is sort of the underlying mechanism. That makes sense. Why should regular people, the average person, be paying attention to all this?
Well, what happens is people are the last to pay attention. Central banks have been buying more gold for the last 4 years than they have in the history. And there's a reason for that. And you see financial institutions now buying gold. But the consumer is told the same thing all the time. It's told by the economists and by the Federal Reserve that inflation's under control, that growth, we're having growth, that real earnings are up. And yet when we go into the supermarket, we are buying less and less and less. So it's important to understand that this relationship that we have as consumers with the dollar needs to be evaluated.
And the central banks, I guess, are they also buying gold now? That's what we're saying here?
Central banks are buying, other than the Federal Reserve, the central banks around the world are buying more gold than they ever have. In fact, the treasuries, the reserves of central banks have more gold than U.S. treasuries for the first time since 1996. So they're de-dollarizing. They're dumping U.S. treasuries. They're getting out of the dollar. They don't trust that dollar anymore. And when we're weaponizing the dollar and tariffs and other functions, how can you blame them?
Right. And I'm guessing, back to the average person, that when their purchasing power is being eroded, we all feel it.
Everyone feels it. Everyone understands that it's happening. But, we have a love affair with the dollar and with paper currencies. And most people are just in paper. We're attached. And you know how relationships are. We go into denial. We believe that our partner is taking care of us. And we're very slow to act. But in reality, what's happening is we are being inflated out of our purchasing power. We're being told to trust something that is proving not to be trustworthy. What do you say to a patient when they're locked in a relationship with someone who's obviously doesn't have their best interests at heart, but they stay with it?
Denial.
I believe we're in a bit of denial. It's very hard to imagine a world where the dollar isn't king. And it's very hard for people to imagine that because they want to believe that coffee they're buying today, they'll be able to buy tomorrow. But fiat currency has a history of evaporating. And that's what we're seeing right now.
And for people thinking about retirement and long-term savings, I guess this is even a bigger issue.
It's a much bigger issue because when you retire, you're not earning new dollars. You're not facing wage increases with the new dollars being earned. Imagine you, at one point in your life, were earning $100 an hour, $50 an hour, whatever that number is. You accepted that pay because you understood what it did, meaning how much it would cost to own your home, your car, your expenses, all of that. But now what's happened is that $100 that you were earning only buys $50 worth of goods and services. How do you keep your life in retirement? And that's why you see people having to downsize and really worry about, how am I going to have the retirement I want when my dollars are being devalued?
Yeah, inflation is so pernicious. This erosion of purchasing power is people doing. It's just slowed. It's just the Chinese water torture, I think they used to call it. We've been talking a lot about gold, but silver seems to move even faster. How do we understand silver's role in all this?
Silver, it's unbelievable. $112 right now. We just hit $112, and I've been talking about silver for a long time. Back in September, I did a video I called Gold to 5,000 and Silver to 100. Everyone thought I was nuts. Now Bank of America just came out and said silver to $135 to $309. And why? Because we have a silver shortage. We've been in silver supply deficits on the industrial side for 5 years in a row. And this is really coming out now because for a long time, silver was $15 to $20 an ounce, and it cost $20 an ounce to mine it. So what happened was there was no exploration. There were no mines. 73% of all silver is a byproduct of mining zinc, lead, even gold. When they hit a silver vein, they pull it out. But the infrastructure to pull silver out isn't in place. It takes more than 10 years to develop all that. So as the supply demand just keeps increasing and increasing, there's no way to increase the amount of silver. And so we've hit a point where now silver is in such demand on an industrial level that price is just skyrocketing.
Yeah, and Caleb, put that chart back up again, because the asymptotic price increase is really kind of interesting. It's almost a blow off. And what should people pay attention to who are thinking about getting involved with this or trying to, protect themselves with precious metals?
First of all, you don't want to buy precious metals to get rich. A lot of people have made a ton of money, and I believe they're going to continue to make a ton of money. But the real value in it is that it is a hedge. It is saying that I don't want to be 100% in paper. In this world right now, with so much chaos and turbulence, because really what we're talking about is a safe haven. It's something that cannot be printed, it cannot be devalued on you, it cannot disappear on you. It is something that a portion, I really believe this strongly, a portion of every person's portfolio should have some gold and silver, physical gold and silver, not paper gold and silver. You need to offset your risk. And if you don't believe there's risk right now for the dollar and the fiat system, I urge you to reconsider and really examine what's going on. I'm not telling you to sell everything you have and go out and buy gold and silver, but a portion, something to hedge the difference and minimize risk is so valuable right now.
I come from a cultural heritage where there was a consistent drumbeat that you should get some gold and bury it in the backyard. That kind of thing. That was always, that was the old country way of doing it. But you guys have better, more advantageous ways of managing this.
Absolutely. I mean, with retirement in particular, a lot of people don't know this, but you can actually open up a self-directed IRA and put that into physical gold and silver, store it in a depository where it's insured and secure, and not be 100% in paper. So there are ways that you can accumulate a lot of gold and silver in your retirement accounts and in your portfolios. And people are doing it in massive droves right now. Not enough, but people are starting to get wind of things are changing, and that getting into physical gold and silver would be an important part of a portfolio.
You mentioned that you put out some videos. Is there a place people can go to see your educational material?
Sure. We put out a channel on YouTube, Augusta Precious Metals. So my videos are there. I upload them every week, and I talk about the different factors that are happening in the gold and silver markets and the economy itself. And it's a great resource. And you can also actually learn what is going on in the economy with our free web conferences that we do one-on-one with people who contact us and want to really learn what's going on in the economy and how gold and silver could help.
I am so appreciative of your guys' educational focus and practice. I went, both my wife and I went through one of your presentation, learned a ton, and did not feel like I was being sold anything. Although I wish I had bought right then. I feel like an idiot for not, but and my wife reminds me of it regularly. But you do leave it up people to get to their own decision and make up your own mind. Is there anything? I'm looking around to see if there's anything else that I left out here about what I wanted to talk about. I guess it really is. Oh, and you do in the educational material that I listen to, you help sort of decide about gold versus silver versus both? That's got to be an interesting decision too.
Yeah, both have different factors, and it's important to examine what you're trying to achieve in a portfolio, and we help with that. Again, like you mentioned, it's not about any pressure. It's about really getting education. We believe an educated customer is our best customer. But, like you said you wish you had bought before. Again, it's not about how much gold and silver have made. It's not about buying the price today. When you're investing in gold and silver, you're not buying today's price. You're buying what you think is tomorrow's price, the future's price. And there's one question I always ask people, and that is because gold and silver have an inverse relationship with the dollar. Dollar goes down in buying power, gold and silver go up. And the very simple question is, do you believe your dollar is going to buy less tomorrow, next month, next year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years from now? If you believe that, you're also saying you believe gold and silver will go up. And that's why you buy gold and silver. Not to make a ton of money, but to offset what you're losing in the paper world. Does that make sense?
It does. And again, I sort of intuitively, want to go bury some gold in the backyard as that hedge, as that protection against real trouble. And sustaining what you can sustain against the erosions of, as you say, paper money. Well, Devlin, I appreciate you being here. I think we have more information at dr.com/gold. Caleb, do you want to ask that? Caleb just flashed a question up on my screen here. Do you want to ask that question?
Yeah, I just had a quick question.
It doesn't sound like something will come from me.
I know a lot of people, especially watching the show right now, they are preparing for possibly the civil unrest in the United States increasing even more than it is right now. So can you explain why Augusta would be a better option than burying a safe of gold in your backyard? Like what makes Augusta better for that purpose?
Well, most Americans, the majority of their savings are forced savings through retirement accounts, 401s and others. There is over $40 trillion in retirement accounts. Very few people have a lot of money at home. And so the Augusta difference is that savings that you have, that you've built up, that you don't want to take a distribution, you don't want to pay taxes on yet, you can convert that into physical gold and silver and know that you're not sitting there in paper and exposed. And civil unrest and everything that's happening in the United States and around the world, as all these geopolitical pockets pop up, that's another reason for the increase in the price of gold and silver. It's not just the dollar and the economic effects. It is the feeling of lack of safety, because gold and silver is the ultimate safe haven.
Susan came running in here. I suspect you have a question too. Is that what the?
I just want to acknowledge that this is a great segment.
Oh, good. All right, excellent. Well, as always, when we talk to the Augusta guys, that we learned something. So, Devlin, I appreciate you being here. Again, dr.com/gold for more information. You can text Drew to 35052. Also, the word Drew, D-R-E-W. We appreciate you being here, and we appreciate the opportunity to talk to you.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Devlin Steele, everybody. Thank you so much. So, coming up, again, one more time, it's dr.com/gold where you can find out more information, and they'll give you lots of educational material, as Devlin was saying. He's got videos up there, and he's happy to share it with you. It
also works drdrew.com/Augusta.
Oh, is that right?
If you get confused.
Okay. Excuse me. Upcoming guest. I know we've got G. Van Fleet coming in. We've got Naomi Wolf. What's that?
It is stuffed. I can barely fit all the guests we have coming up.
Yeah, look at that. Tim Hinchcliffe, not to be confused with Tony Hinchcliffe.
You should try to get him too, though.
Tony? Oh, we get Tony. Tony was on the old After Dark show.
Call him. Maybe we can put him together on the same show.
Salty Cracker, Peter Schweitzer. There's just so many people coming up. I'm looking at the different.
Yeah. So everybody's wondering if you're still sick, but you're much better.
Oh my God, I'm so much better. I'm so much better. I had almost no cough all day, and then I turned the air conditioning on in this because it's freezing here, but it got hot in here, so I turned the air on, and boom, the cough got stimulated. But Kennedy Montgomery saved me with her inhaler, and when we were traveling.
Nation.
Kennedy Nation, we were traveling with her, And she's like, I just had this. You're going to need to take that inhaler for another month. I'm like, no, I don't think so. But
I hope so. I'm tired of you coughing.
I'm tired of me coughing too, but now it gets stirred up by things. Naomi Wolf in here.
Me up with it right
on
now, so
Thursday. We have to travel. Tomorrow we're traveling? We're traveling.
Yes.
Paul Alexander, G. Van Fleet. Paul was the first guy to really alert me to the behavior and psychology of the deep state. He really was the first one that described a firsthand experience of being around those people. And it was shocking to me, but no longer, unfortunately. All right, everybody. Caleb, anything from your standpoint? Anything more I missed here?
Nope. Very excited. That was a really good show. A lot of good info. And I just keep watching the gold price go up. And every time I hear Susan say, I should have bought more gold, I go to the chart and I'm like, yeah, you probably should have. If I go back 1 month.
Should have bought some.
It's like, it's gone
silver,
so
the one
far
that
up.
is really.
Well, I have good news. I did buy a piece of gold jewelry. And
Caleb,
I'm glad.
I'm worried now that somebody's going to swing by and try to pull the gold out of my mouth because I have quite a bit of my teeth, and it's now worth a lot of money.
I know where I'm going.
Look at the value of that now. Like, I mean, if you'd gotten this done just a year ago, then you'd be much less
Don't
risk
tell
of someone
anybody.
wanting your teeth.
I know.
To the
it's crazy.
public,
It's really
walk
crazy.
to dinner.
Those
I don't
gold
wanna
teeth are
go.
about to be gone, so don't worry.
All right.
Yeah, why don't you take them out and make a nice little piece of jewelry?
And then we'll just put porcelain back in.
Yeah.
I bet people will do that. I bet that will happen. No, not yet. Well, this is my gold investment is in my mouth. No, I think.
I think when we first got this sponsor, and everybody knows this is our sponsor, I asked my jeweler. I said, "What do you think gold's going to?" And she said 3,500. It was at 3,000, and I said, "Okay." And then it went by so fast. All of a sudden, it was at 5,000.
Just amazing.
Now it's at 5,100.
All right. Well, thank you all for being here.
I need a psychic jeweler. I need
5,000 for gold. It's just mind-boggling.
Should have called a psychic, right, Caleb?
A year ago, yeah.
Oh, well.
All right, everybody. Thank you for being here. We'll see you on Thursday at 2:00. And don't forget want to say anything about the Maha thing tomorrow, Caleb?
Not yet. I'm not sure who's actually going to be on there tomorrow, but we did have, I think last week or the week before, we were suddenly surprised. Even I, the producer, was surprised when RFK just showed up on the show. So you never know who's going to be on these Maha shows.
I could see, Oz has some reporting to do about the fraud in California. It's shocking stuff he's uncovering. Oh my God. All right, everybody. We will see you on Thursday, 2:00 Pacific time. See you then.
Ta-ta.
Ask Dr. Drew is produced by Caleb Nation and Susan Pinsky. Emily Barsh is our content producer. As a reminder, the discussions here are not a substitute for medical care, diagnosis, or treatment. This show is intended for educational and informational purposes only. I am a licensed physician, but I am not a replacement for your personal doctor, and I am not practicing medicine here. Always remember that our understanding of medicine and science is constantly evolving. Though my opinion is based on the information that is available to me today, some of the contents of this show could be outdated in the future. Be sure to check with trusted resources in case any of the information has been updated since this was published. If you or someone you know is in immediate danger, don't call me, call 911. If you're feeling hopeless or suicidal, call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. You can find more of my recommended organizations and helpful resources at drdrew.com/help.